All right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Ruach HaKodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Antipater and the Herodian Dynasty. This video comes to inspiration of a video I was watching Elder Pastor do, dealing with who are the Greeks in the Bible. And he mentioned, Antipater. He mentioned, the Edomites, the Maccabees, so I decided through the Spirit, the Spirit hit me. So I wanted to land back off of the statement that the Elder Apostle made, on the Maccabees, Antipater, the Idumeans, or the Edomites. And the thought came into mind to go into some of that history. So I'm going to try to get through as much of it as I can, before camp. And hopefully it'll all, come together. Because this history is very important to understand, to be able to discern the difference between, the Edomites that were calling themselves Jews and the actual Israelites, So when we deal with the family of Antipater, which is an Idumean, right? We jump down here and it says, note on husband Antipater plus of Idumea. Antipater the first, the Idumean, died 43 BC, was the founder of the Herodian Dynasty and father of Herod the Great. And this is where Herod the Great got his nationality from, because it's about the father, not about the mother. It says, according to Africanus and Epiphanius, he was the son of Herod the First of Ascalon. Citation needed. According to Josephus, he was the son of Antipas the First. Citation needed. A native of Idumea, and the point is that he's a native of Idumea. All right. It says southeast of Judea, between the Dead Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba, and which during the time of the Hebrew Bible had been known as the land of Edom. And that's exactly what it's called, the land of Edom. It says Antipater became a powerful official under the later Hasmonean kings and subsequently became a client of the Roman general Pompey the Great when Pompey conquered Judea in the name of Roman Republic. And pretty much Antipater, the Herods and all that, they were opportunists, just like Vocab Malone. Whenever somebody was defeated and they were riding with them, they would bounce and jump to the other. They were like the Don Kings of the Edomite nation. It's so depressing to go home with the loser, So they always want to get with the winner, because they were making moves, as you see what happened. Eventually, they were making moves on the so-called Jewish state, or the Israelite state, to become the rulers of it, to cement their position, so that they can have a constant revenue of money coming in. So it says, when Julius Caesar defeated Pompey, Antipater aided Caesar in Alexandria. See, he keeps jumping, from the loser to the winner. Although he used people as stepping stones, just like Vocab and other Edomites do. And was made chief minister of Judea. With the right to collect taxes, Antipater eventually made his son Phasael and Herod the governors of Jerusalem and Galilee, respectively. And this is what happened. This is how they started getting a foothold in there. Antipater, the Edomite, he was in prominent positions. He had influence from the Roman Senate, Republic. And with that influence and his underhanded helping of certain allies, he got allies into his corner and was able to make or put his sons into prominent positions, right? It says, after the assassination of Caesar, Antipater was forced to side with Gaius Cassius Longinus, and pretty much what happened, he jumped again against Mark Antony. The pro-Roman politics of Antipater led to his increasing unpopularity among the devout, non-Hellenized Jews. See, he died by poison. And why did he gain that unpopularity? Because these Israelites that were not Hellenized, you had the ones that were Hellenized and they didn't give a shit, but the ones that were not Hellenized, they were not under the influence of the Greek Empire. They didn't want nothing to do with him. Why? Because he had been forcibly converted by John Hyrcanus I. Now, there's a difference between John Hyrcanus is a title. You had John Hyrcanus I and you had John Hyrcanus II. John Hyrcanus I was rough. You know, he forcibly converted the Edomites to so-called Judaism. But John Hyrcanus II, he was a puppet. And that's who Antipater was pretty much like slapping him around, you know, and using him as a pawn, because that's what the devil does. It says the diplomacy and artful politics of Antipater, as well as his insinuation into the Hasmonean court, paved the way for the rise of his son Herod the Great, who used this position to marry the Hasmonean princess Miriam. And as Elder Pastor said, you know, the Maccabees, you know, the Hasmoneans, they were going off by allowing this union. Because just because they were forcibly converted, so what? And we're going to read on further, and you're going to see, you know, the pretty much the disdain that certain Israelites had against this family. Endear himself to Rome and become king of Judea under Roman influence. Yeah, because Herod himself was also kissing up to the Romans. It says Antipater was married to Cypros, a Nabatean noblewoman. They had and this is why they say that the Edomites are so-called Arabs, because Antipater married this woman, you know, of the Nabateans. So they're saying, well, that's why the Edomites are Arabs. Now let's go real quick to Genesis 25 and 25, right? It says, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they call his name Esau. Now when we look up the name Esau from the Hebrew word Aishah, and you're not going to find Aishah or Aishashwa, you know, unless you do some research. Now, because somebody asked me the question, in the Ben Yehudi Hebrew, English, Hebrew dictionary, you know, in there, when you look up the word Aishash, you'll see it. It'll come up as Aishash, which Aishash is wasted away, and then the wa at the end is he. Aishashwa, wasted away is he. Now, sometimes when you put a name together, there are certain letters that drop within that letter, within that name, or within that phrase. All right, so Aishah is a shortened form of saying Aishashwa. Okay, wasted away is he. And they're going to tell you it's Harry. It does not mean Harry. The name Seir or Sha'ir means Harry. But it goes on to say, eldest son of Isaac and Rebekah and twin brother of Jacob, sold the birthright for food when he was hungry, and the divine blessing went to Jacob, progenitor of the Arab peoples. Bullshit. He is not the progenitor of the Arab people, because Amalek, they take their nationality based off of what your mother is. All right. So Antipater was married to Cypros, a Nabatean noblewoman. They had 4 sons: Phazael, Herod, Joseph, and Pheroras, and a daughter Salome. And you see that here in this chart. Antipater, governor of Idumea. Then he had these sons: Phalion, Joseph, Antipater. You know, and then Antipater married Cypros, the Arabian princess, right? This was their father. Then down here you had Antipater. He had sons: Phazael, Herod, Joseph, Pheroras, and Salome. This was their daughter. These were their 4 sons. And here Herod married Princess Miriam of the Hasmonean family. You know, so on and so forth. All right. So going back, it says they had 4 sons. Blah 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 blah. One of several Salomes among the Herodians. Yeah, because this was a popular name. Just like Herod was a popular name, Salome was a popular name, Antipater was a popular name among the Edomites. It says Antipater was a wealthy man and was favored by his fellow Idumeans. Josephus, from whom the details of Judean politics in this period are derived, described him as a seditious, as seditious in his nature. Yeah, because his whole thing was about who is the most popular, or who is the most powerful, or who is winning. And he's gonna jump to whoever, and he's gonna do whatever he can to keep that separation. It says the Idumeans had been forcibly converted to Judaism by the Sadducee-influenced Hasmonean leader John Hyrcanus. Now, this was John Hyrcanus the first, because when you read down here, you see Hyrcanus the second. So there was a distinction between the two. This is the one that forcibly converted them. But listen to what it says. Forcible conversion was not recognized by the Pharisaic tradition. See? So even though Antipater and Herod the Great may have considered themselves of the Jewish faith, they were not considered Jewish by the observant and nationalist Jews of Judea, and were resented for their Edomite ancestry, their Hellenized culture, and their collusion with the Roman invaders. See? So they were not recognized. So it doesn't matter if they say they were forcibly converted or converted freely. That's not how this works. This is a nationality thing. That's why the Apostle Paul said, according to the flesh. Let's go to that real quick. Romans chapter 9, verse 3. It says, for I could wish that myself were accursed from Yahushua for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of the Most High and the promises, right? And these covenants were the first and second covenants. Every other covenant, as Elder Pastor was breaking down in one of his lessons, you had many different covenants. The covenant of the rainbow, where the Lord said he will not destroy again every living thing, that's for everybody. The covenant of circumcision was for everyone that was under the authority of the Israelites, beginning with Abraham. That has, like he said, neither one of those covenants have anything to do with salvation. The covenants of salvation, which is the first and second covenant of, the laws and the sacrifice of animals, that was only made with the nation of Israel. And this is why these devils, they're very tricky. That's why they, like Gad said, that they speak with a forked tongue. They know damn well that those covenants have nothing to do with the two covenants of sacrifice, and of salvation and the law, dealing with the laws. But they'll slap that in there. See, everybody is talking about everybody, all flesh. Because that's how they do. That's how the devil does. Anyways, going back, it says, activity in the Hasmonean court, Antipater laid the foundation for Herod's ascension to the throne of Judea, partly through his activities in the court of the Hasmoneans, the heirs of the Maccabees, who were the hereditary leaders of the Jews, and partly by currying favor with the Romans, who made him the first Roman procurator of Judea. So as Apostle Tar said, they were going off by forcibly converting these dudes these people into our faith. It says Antipater insinuated himself into the party of Hyrcanus II in his contest for power with his brother Aristobulus II. Both were Hasmonean princes. So these two, Hyrcanus II and Aristobulus II, they were Israelites that were in contest for the rulership. And this one here, Aristobulus, I believe this was the last of the rulers of the Hasmonean dynasty. And this is where, after he was put to death by the Romans, I believe it was, this is where Herod was inserted, because Herod made according to the history that I remember, Herod made a agreement with the Romans, I believe it's to keep him in power, something along those lines. Forget how it was, and they ended up putting him to death, and ended up putting Herod up in there. So I'm not sure if it was through underhanded tactics, but I wouldn't be surprised, because like I said, it was a while ago. This was years ago when I went over this history, and I don't really remember it fully, but it's something along those lines. If you want to find out, you could go and do the research. Both were Hasmonean princes. Their father, Alexander had made Antipater general of all Judea. See, so they were going off, right, putting these devils into these higher positions. For he had a rapport with the Arabians. Hyrcanus succeeded his mother as ruler, but bowed out in favor of his younger brother Aristobulus. But Antipater continued to support Hyrcanus, and he advised Hyrcanus to put himself under the protection of the Arabian king Aretas III in Petra. Together they would attack Aristobulus in Jerusalem. Pompey put down the trouble and made Hyrcanus the ethnarch of Judea. Antipater remained in charge of affairs of the state. The Roman province of Judea and Syria was split, and Idumea was eventually given to Antipater to govern. These divisions would later be seats of power for the Herodian descendants of Antipater. When Caesar defeated Pompey, Antipater aided Caesar in Alexandria and was made chief minister of Judea. With the right to collect taxes, Antipater eventually made his son Phasael governor of Jerusalem, and Herod became governor of Galilee. After the assassination of Caesar, Antipater was forced to side with which you read that already. It says, but here's we had already read this, I believe. Well, let's read that anyway. It says, the pro-Roman politics of Antipater led to his increasing unpopularity among the devout, non-Hellenized Jews, and he was poisoned. The diplomacy and artful politics of Antipater, as well as his insinuation into the Hasmonean court, paved the way for the rise of his son Herod the Great, who used this position to marry the Hasmonean princess Miriam, endear himself to Rome, and usurp the Judean throne to become king of Judea under Roman influence. And this is why Amalek says that you are a Jew based off who your mother is, because Herod actually married an Israelite woman. She was a princess among the Hasmoneans. And like Elder Pastor said, they were going off by doing all of this. You know? You got John Hyrcanus I. It says, although he struggled in vain to destroy Ptolemy, he successfully thwarted Syrian incursion by alliance with Rome and conquered the unfriendly neighboring territories of Samaria and Idumea, Edom. He forced Idumea to convert to Judaism, the first example of conversion imposed by the Jews in their history. And this was frowned upon. It wasn't accepted, as we read here before. Let's see, considered themselves, Herod the Great may have considered themselves of the Jewish faith. They were not considered Jewish by the observant and nationalist Jews of Judea, and were resented for their Edomite ancestry, their Hellenized culture, and their collusion with the Roman invaders. So they were not recognized. So just because you are so-called convert somebody, they are not recognized as being Israelites or Jews. It doesn't matter. It mattered. The promise was to Abraham and to his seed, singular, and that's why I said Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right. Now I got a little here on Herod, and then we're going to get to some precepts and close the lesson out. It says Herod was born in or around 72 BCE in Idumea, south of Judea. He was the second son of Antipater the Idumean, a high-ranking official under Ethnarch Hyrcanus II, and Cypros, a Nabatean Arab. Herod's father was by descent an Edomite, whose ancestors, and this is why they try to connect the Arabs with the Nabateans, because the Idumeans married into the royal line of these Arabs, these Nabateans. But they are not. That's why I keep saying Edomite, because that's what they are. They're Edomites. But people seeing this, they're going to keep equating Edomite with Arabs. Oh, the Arabs are the Edomites. No. Whose ancestors had converted to Judaism. Herod was raised as a Jew. Strabo, a contemporary, held that the Idumeans, whom they identified as of Nabatean origin, bullshit. They're Idumeans. You see how the devil's, starting to put the spin and twist on it? That's why when you go to the Blue Letter Bible and you look up the name Esau, what happens? Eldest son of Isaac and Rebekah and twin brother of Jacob, sold their birthright for food when he was hungry, and the divine blessing went to Jacob, progenitor of the Arab peoples. And he's not the progenitor of the Arab peoples. They married into the line of the royal line of the so-called Arab people, or Ishmaelites, but they're not. They're not. The Nabateans are not Edomites. The Edomites are a separate nation, constituted the majority of population of Western Judea, where they commingled with the Judeans and adopted their customs. See, this is a view shared also by some modern scholarly works, which consider Idumeans as of Arab or Nabatean origin, and it's not. If you read this properly, you understand that Herod was of his father Antipater the Idumean. He married into the royal line of the Nabateans by this woman named Cypros. So how in the hell could they be Nabatean in origin when they married into the Nabateans? It says, thus Herod was ethnically an Arab from both sides. Bullshit. Because the Edomites are Edomites and the Arabs come from Ishmael. Matter of fact, let me see what it says for Ishmael. It should say Arab. Because Ishmael had 12 sons. Let's see what it says for Ishmael. Let me go back here. And we're going to go from there. Another precept came to mind. Let's go to Galatians 4. Now let's go back. Let's look up the word Ishmael, or the name Ishmael. Yashemai Allah means he has heard of the power. Ishmael, let's see, son of Abraham and Sarah, Sarah's handmaid Hagar, and the progenitor of the Arabian people. So how in the fuck can the Edomites be the progenitor of the Arabian people, and the Ishmaelites also be the progenitor of the Arabian peoples? You see the madness? You see the deception? And this is what vocab does. This is what these devils do. They put a whole lot of different things out there, a lot of spins, so it could confuse people. But the Lord said that the elect are going to find a way, bottom line. Anyways, going back, let's see. And you can read more of this if you want. I put all three of these, or two of them, in the description box. So if you brothers want to read it, you can read it. Now, what I did was I typed, and before I go here to Herod, let's go here to, this is Acts 16:1, right? Then came he to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, and believed, but his father was a Greek. Now, this was an actual Israelite woman, all right? As opposed to the next place where Jewess appears. So let's look up Jewess. Let's just see what it says for Jewess. Judaios, Jewish, belonging to the Jewish nation, Jewish as respect to birth, origin, religion. Now let's see what it says for the other one. Acts 24:4, it says, and after certain days, when Felix came with his wife Drusilla, which was a Jewess, he sent for Paul and heard him concerning the faith in Yahushua. So Drusilla was an Edomite that was calling herself a Jewess. Remember, they were forcibly converted, the same word. But then they have two distinctions: belonging to the Jewish nation, which is the case of Timothy's mother, Eunice. I believe her name was Eunice, and his grandmother was Lois. And this is Jewish as respect to birth, origin, religion. And this is where they get in there with the so-called religious part. Now, let's go back and let's look up. Let's see what it says for. Well, you know what? Let me type in. Just bear with me. Let's look up Eunice. 2 Timothy 1:5. When I call to remembrance the unfeigned faith that is in thee, which dwelt first in thy grandmother Lois, and thy mother Eunice, and I am persuaded that in thee also. So now let's see what they say for Eunice. Let's see what they say for Unique. Eunice, good victory, the mother of Timothy. All right, it doesn't really say much, but she was an Israelite and she was a devout woman. But now here in Acts 24 and 24, when we look up the name Drusilla, all right, we look up the name Drusilla. Where the hell is she? Right here. Drusilla, watered by the dew, the daughter of Agrippa the elder, wife of Felix, the governor of Judea, a most licentious woman. So the daughter of Agrippa. Who is Agrippa? Agrippa is one of the Herods, one of the descendants of Herod. So she's an Edomite that was calling herself a Jewess. But now in the case of Timothy's mother, she was actually an Israelite. You see? There's a lot of twists and turns, man. Felix, a Roman procurator of Judea appointed by the Emperor Claudius AD 53, he ruled the province in mean, cruel, and profligate manner. His period of office was full of troubles and seditions. 2 years of whole, stolen money, time, Portius Festus, penalty. All right, so now let's go to Herod himself. Matthew 2 and 1. Now when Yahushua was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. Now when we look up the name Herod, I believe means hero. Herodes, heroic. It says the name of a royal family that flourished among the Jews in the times of Yahushua and the apostles. Herod the Great was a son of Antipater of Idumea, appointed king of Judea BC 40 by the Roman Senate, which we just read about, at the suggestion of Antony, that was Mark Antony, and with the consent of Octavian. He at length overcame the great opposition which the country made to him and took possession of the kingdom BC 37. It says, and after the battle of Actium, he was confirmed by Octavian, whose favor he ever enjoyed. He was brave and skilled in war, learned and sagacious, but also extremely suspicious and cruel. Hence he destroyed the entire royal family of Hasmoneans, and that's how he was able to get up in there. It says, put to death many of the Jews that opposed his government, and proceeded to kill even his dearly beloved wife Miriam of the Hasmonean line and his 2 sons she had borne him. And this dude was a real demon. It says, by these acts of bloodshed, remember it says since thou has not hated blood, and especially by his love and imitation of Roman customs and institutions, and by the burdensome taxes imposed upon his subjects, he so alienated the Jews that he was unable to regain their favor by his splendid restoration of the temple and other acts of munificence. He died in the 70th year of his age, the 37th year of his reign, the 4th before the Dionysian era. In his closing years, John the Baptist and Yahushua were born. Matthew narrates that he commanded all the male children under 2 years old in Bethlehem to be slain. Why? Because when you read the history, it speaks about the king of Jerusalem, the king of Israel being born. And he was like taken aback because he's like, what the hell? Because he's the king of the Jews, but he wasn't the rightful king. He was put up in there through underhanded tactics. All right. Then you got, these are his different sons. You had Herod, surnamed Antipas. You had Herod Agrippa I. You had Herod Agrippa II, son of Herod Agrippa I. And these were all of the demons that were ruling, And you see here, you have Antipater. All right. He was governor. Then he had 3 sons. And this Antipater is the procurator of Judea. He was a governor of Idumea. He was a procurator of Judea. And he married Cypros, the Arabian princess. And they have 4 sons and 2 daughters, right? Phaziel, Herod, Joseph, Pheroras, and Salome was the daughter. Herod married Miriam, and these are the sons that they had. This is the daughter, Salompsio, Cypros, Alexander, Aristobulus. And then this individual married Bernice. They had Herod Agrippa I and Herod, king of Chalcis. Over here, he married another woman named Cypros, and this, and I'm sure it goes on. And then you have another line over here from another son of the original Antipater, not Antipater the Idumean, but his father. And it goes down the line, boom, boom. So you got to realize that there's a lot. When you see Miriam and Salome, Aristobulus, Herod, Cypros, that's just a common name for those particular individuals. All right. So there was a whole host of, I believe it was 4 altogether, if I'm not mistaken, in the Bible, Herods in the Bible that ruled, and you could read about them when you read through the books of the Gospel and the book of Acts, because after the book of Acts they do not appear, anymore, as you see right here. See, this is Matthew, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke. They don't even mention them in John. Then you have Acts, and then after Acts 13:1, they don't really mention too much about them. But then you have towards the end of Acts, you have Agrippa. If you type in Agrippa, that'll be another name that comes up. See, Acts 25 and 26. You have Agrippa, and we look up the word Agrippa. Agrippas, Agrippa, hero-like, name of a ruling family in Israel at the time of Yahushua. See 2264 for discussion of the Herods. See, it leads you back to the Herods, which are Herods, or what? Idumeans, Idumean rulers. All right. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, there's a whole lot of history on it, but those are just some of the basic points. With that, I pray that you brothers have been edified. To the next time I say Shalom. And if you want to know more, like I said, just go to the description box and you'll see the links. If you decide you want to do a lesson on it or whatever, or just to know the history, whatever the case may be. So with that, I pray that your brothers have been edified. To the next time I say Shalom.